Thank you also for the invitation.
So I am here with the audience.
Okay.
And I'll just explain how they can ask questions because we
Okay.
cannot pass the microphone.
Okay, perfect.
And then I'll come to you, okay?
Okay, perfect.
You have, slido.com, and then you have that code. And if you use your phones, you type questions and they will appear on my iPad. Um, if you feel that you really don't want to do that, the room is very small, so you can just say your questions out loud and we will probably hear, and I can repeat to Anais. Anais, your film is so complex. I was looking at it today, and it's such a complex film that has so many possible doors to get into it and start talking about it.
Yes.
And it just took in my head the words of that projectionist that was working with you with the archive, when he says that he's the only one who remembers in his family, and it stayed with me because he's the one working with the images, right? And your film is so much about looking and looking and looking for the images and the words and trying to reconstruct a memory that has been erased or almost erased by the power, right?
Yes.
So the first question I wanted to ask you is, first, have you shown your film in Guatemala already?
Okay.
And what is, if you can give us a context of what your film means for the today Guatemala, what is the...
Okay. Yes. Well, first of all, I haven't shown the film in Guatemala. I haven't screened it. The premiere was at Hot Dogs in Canada like 1 month ago, and now it's the European premiere. And I decided to not to show right now the film because, first of all, because of the pandemic situation, we can have like public screenings and everything. And I think that it's very important for this film to have a conversation after screening the film, because it's very polemic issue for Guatemala, a very polarized topic also, and very sensitive. So for me, it's very, very important to have like this conversation with the public. That's on one hand. And on the other hand, I don't want that some people attack the film, because it's a film that talks about also people who have like a political position, and also people who decided to took the arms also in such a way. So that's not at all politically correct in Guatemala. So I want that, first of all, to have like this route of international festivals and everything, and then to show the film in Guatemala, because I know that some groups can attack like this film in Guatemala, says that it's a communist film, that it's or maybe more terrorist, because Guatemala is a very conservative country, anti-communist country, and right-wing country in general. Not all the people, but in general, the power and the politicians and everything. So that's why I decided not to show right now the film, because I know it's a very strong issue. Yes.
So the conversations that your film tries to bring forward are conversations that are not existing in the Guatemalan society in an open way.
I think that in some way, yes, there are some conversation, but I think that other conversation, not at all, that there are conversation more in, for example, in the human rights organization or some civilians organization, but not like nationally, I think. And also, I think that for our generation, it's I wanted also that my generation connect with this film. I'm 36 years old, because I think that we have grown up with a lot of silence and a lot of historical gaps. And so it's we don't have all the information. We don't have like all the stories. In my family, for example, some issues they're still whispering, saying some words, for example, no, like this, no, or be careful, don't talk about this, and be careful about that, because in Guatemala there is a lot also of criminalization and persecution right now for some people. So I think that that's why we are, and I think that we are also carrying a lot of fears. And I say, okay, I'm fear, and I was a little fear making some parts of the film, and I'm fear to show this film in Guatemala, but I don't want that this fear paralyze me. I think it's important to go through this, and I think that's why. That's why I think that, yes, and also I think that some topics, I think that in Guatemala we have other films that talk about the war, but they are talking about victims. And of course, a lot of people is victim about this, but I wanted to talk it about another side. I wanted to talk about people who decide to take a political position. And I think that's a little new, maybe like this kind of view in the film. And also, we don't talk a lot about the repression in the city. We talk more about the repression in the rural areas where the repression was stronger. But in the city, we don't say about what happened in the city and the urban places. So for me, it was also important to talk about this because, yes, and for me, even though I knew most part of the story, I found a lot of things like making the research in the newspapers. And I think I could realize how big was the repression in Guatemala. It was something so big and so strong that it's I think that's why. And I was wondering, I have to show these violent images, how can I show it? But yes, I think I had to show it because I don't think we really realize how big it was, this repression at the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. Mm-hmm.
I have a question here. Anais, as a Guatemalan, I was very touched. Gracias for this amazing effort to recover our collective memory. Have you shown the film to your other interviewees?
Yes, I think I know who is making the question. Hi, Regina. And yes, I only showed the film to some of them, and they were very touched. And the other ones, I didn't show it, not because I don't want, it's because they are like more than 70 years old, and I can't show it physically. I want that they to show it. So I think that maybe in August, I'm going to make a private screen of the film with the other person that are in the film. And the only one who don't want to watch the film right now is Elias' daughter. I talked with her and I gave her all the information I found of his father, of Elias, all the images, the interviews, everything, the newspaper. But she said that for her it was very strong. So right now she doesn't want to watch anything.
Of course.
Yes.
Going back to what you were talking about, the decision about showing the violent images that you show. What I found extraordinary in your film is that although you do show those images, you never speculate over them. You never try to dramatize those images or cover them with some, emotional music or emotional layer that will take us through some sort of fascination of this violence and the emotions that it carries with. There is a very discreet and very, contained sound band in your film. The soundtrack is very precise. And also the fact that you are constantly putting the film in the question of what are the materials that I have to deal with in terms of images and sounds and papers, right? So it's very thorough in that materiality of memory. So I wanted to ask you, how was that process? How did you think about your editing and your sound editing?
Okay.
Because it's really remarkable as you show this level of violence and this such dramatic story, and at the same time you keep us away from any sort of entrapment or manipulation, emotive manipulation that we could feel.
Yes, of course. Yes, no, of course. First of all, I found more images that are much more violent, and I really decided not to put it because it was very strong. But also I wanted to put it because in Guatemala is still a very violent country, and all the scenes of the dead people in the streets, we still have these scenes, and I have watched these scenes, and I wanted like to make also some parallels and to watch like to have like this reflection about how the violence is still there, even though it's not the same reasons, but we are still in a living in a violent country. And with the sound, yes, at the beginning, the editor put some sound like just for editing that I really didn't like. And I say, okay, I'm not going to use that. And then with the sound designer, who is Guatemalan, we started like to work a lot like together. I was always with him, never without him. I made all the sound design with him next from him. And yes, we tried to explore. I know that I wanted like some sound that were like very deep, because I think that the issue is very deep. So I think that I want deep sounds, and that's like we started like to search. I didn't want it music because I think that the film is too dramatic, like to put music and like to say now you have to cry, now you have to feel that. No, so that I was like I didn't want it to put that. And then we started like also with all the materiality. For example, how can sound, for example, this found footage, and also when is like roted, and when you have all the decomposition, or I don't know how to, if we say it in English like this, but I wanted also like to search like those sounds of the I don't know how to say it in English, tierra.
Composition.
Less, the
The
decomposition.
rotting of the
Exactly, the rotting, yes. And that sounds, and also the sounds of the wind. And also at one moment we have the sound of the water. So also like, yes, but also like deep sounds, like sounds, or some sounds that you know that are hidden, but you don't know. Or sometimes you have the sound of, for example, a bird that is passing, but you don't watch it, and things like that. So we were like, yes, we work a lot with the sound design, and I love to work the sound design. For me, it was very important. Yes, very important part of the film.
Let me just see if anyone wants to ask a question. Okay, Anais, you said yourself your age. How long have you been working in the film?
Yeah, 6 years. 6
So
years.
You started when you were 30.
Yes. I started really when Elias died. Yes, when I was 30. Yes, because at the beginning I asked to Elias if I could film him, but I really didn't know what I was going to make. Like I didn't know that I was going to make a documentary. And then Elias died, and I say, okay, I have to I want to make something with this. I don't know what, but I want, and I really wanted to work with memory and war in Guatemala, because it was really an issue that I really wanted to work. And then I started, like, first of all, making a big research of images and a research of testimonies also. And at the beginning, a lot of people didn't want it to be filmed. I talked with a lot of journalists and people from this period who lived this period, and they didn't want it. And then so I continue, and then, well, of course, then there was other people who accept to be filmed, that are in the film, and yes, and that's why, yes, it was a lot of work.
How did you meet Elias? He's such an incredible person. I mean, a single father,
Yes.
accepting this kind of terrible position of being a mole, next to a horrifying dictator, and keeping his strength and his lucidity, and having this amazing speech that we see recorded from Panama. right? How did you meet him? How old was he?
Yes. Yes, I first met Elias' brother, and he always talked me about Elias. And you have to meet my brother. My brother has an incredible story and everything. And then I met an Italian filmmaker who interviewed Elias in 1983. And the first interview that we watched Elias saying, yes, I infiltrate the government and everything, this film tape, it was an Italian filmmaker who gave it to me before I met Elias. And then I met Elias in 2011 and I gave him the film tape. And he was very moved because he had never seen those images. And so then we started to talk a lot, and we became friends and everything. And then I asked him, okay, Elias, I want to make you an interview. Can I film you? And he said, yes, okay. He wasn't an easy person. He was like, okay, but on my way. Okay, perfect. But then he gets very sick and he says, okay, I don't feel very well. So let's wait a moment. And then like 1 month later, he called me and he said, oh, Anais, I'm going to give my testimony at the trial of the burning of the Spanish embassy. And if you want, you can film me. And he asked me to film him. So I came with some friend and I filmed him. And then I went to his home alone with him. And I filmed this conversation we have while he's lying in the bed. And like 2 weeks later, he died. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I have a question here. Your interviewees speak very freely in the film. What has changed in Guatemala since the 1980s to allow for these stories to be told so openly today?
Yes. Well, we have like the peace accord have been seen in 1996. So of course that we can talk like this, like we can make films and we can talk like this and everything. So I think, of course, that the situation has completely changed because before you couldn't not even say the word guerrilla because you were persecuted at this level, no? Now you can talk about this and everything. But I think that even though we can talk about this, I don't think that it's a topic that we have talked a lot because, for example, the government and the states don't talk about the war at schools, for example. And there is such a big polemic issues about the war because there are a lot of trials and there are a lot of militaries that are going to jail or they have been judged, for example. And I think also in the revolutionary movement and in the left movement, there is a lot of silence. They don't talk and they don't want to talk because there were a lot of errors and also a lot of things that are very, that hurts a lot. And so I think that Elias also speak like this very, I was like very also, well, first of all, we speak a lot, but I think that he knew that he was going to die, Elias. And he was very ironic, and he was like always at the end of his life denouncing the violation of human rights in Guatemala. But I think that he really wanted that his story to be told, because I remember that one time he told me, yes, one day I gave my memories to one filmmaker and I asked him if he could make a film, but he never made the film. So I think that he really wanted Lizzie, because this story about a mole, that's something incredible. That's for a film. So, and I think he said it also in the film. He said somewhere, yeah, his friend says, okay, you need to make a film. So I think, yes, he really wanted. And also Elias was very ironic. He was always at the end, his political position was very firm always. But he says also that he was feared. But at the same time, Elias knew what to say and what not to say, because I think that some names, he knew that he had some names, and for example, with all this trial and everything, some people are very careful of what to say and not to say, because you can be persecuted as a witness also, for example. Yes. So it's always like this now in Guatemala. It's always you say, but you're not to say, and yes, it's very complex.
Which his friends talks about his
Yes.
friend with the pigeon.
Yes.
He's talking about that. One last question, Anais. There is the moment when Elias talks when he is in exile, and he talks about the United States influence on
Yes.
the oppressive regime in Guatemala. And of course, we all know about the United States actions in Latin America. How has that evolved? Was that something that changed, that still exists? How, to what level does society understand exactly this question and this relationship with the US?
Yes, well, I think that for the people who knows all the context of the civil war in Guatemala, yes, of course they know that there was the United States was financing this counterinsurgency, not only in Guatemala, but in Central America, in El Salvador and Nicaragua also. So I think that it's that we know, and even though I think it was Bill Clinton, he asked apologize at the end in one moment because of the United States participation in the war in Guatemala. But I think, of course, we are still under influence of the United States, not at the same level. Now it's all the discourse of human rights and, of course, the migration. Now I think that right now is coming the vice president of the United States is coming to Guatemala, and now it's all the discussion about the migration. And I think that, of course, the United States and the United States Embassy still have a lot of influence in Guatemala with all the decisions. And I think that the big participation also of the United States, it was like giving money and all the equipment of military equipment, not only the United States, but also Israel, the government of Israel now, and is still giving. The government of Israel is still giving a lot of, I don't know if financing, directing, but selling the arms and everything. So, so yes, I think that, I don't know if all the people in Guatemala knows that, but I think it's an issue that you can't hide. I think it's like but I think that at the moment when Elias was interviewed and they were like American journalists who made this interview, it was 1982. So it was the moment when a lot of people were denouncing, and also it was the Reagan government, and the Reagan government was completely anti-communist, and he was like decided that they were going to win the war against the communism in Central America and everything, no, all the Cold War. So yes, but I don't think that, I think it's an issue that we can still making the research, because there are a lot of things that we don't know, that are not completely told, of course. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Anais.
Okay, thank you.
We have to stop.
Okay.
Your film, you are so brave. I really admire your courage as a young woman making this film and making this research and putting together this testimony, and at the same time making such an intelligent piece of cinema that really, really deeply thinks about how to film memory and how to tell how to rescue history from forgetfulness. So thank you very much, and we look forward to welcoming you here in Sheffield with your next film.
Yes, thank you very much to Cynthia and everybody, all the crew of Sheffield DocFest. We are very happy to be part of Sheffield DocFest. Really, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are happy to be part of Rebellion also. that's so
a good one.
Great. Yes.
Much love to you and to your team.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye. Bye to everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And if you go to our website, explore our program, and do tell your friends and people to see the film. Will not be screened again in the cinemas, but it will be available for 72 hours in our platform, DocFest Selects. So yeah, just pass the word because it's a really important film. Thank you.